Show. I am he. We have lots of stuff to talk about tonight. Breaking news, changes, apologies, and explanations. I can't wait to get into the discussion about the change in the staff offensively and what Billy said yesterday. He thought he was going to do with Spurrier. That's interesting. I saw that comment sort of off the wall. Billy Gonzalez talking about it yesterday. We'll get to that. As always, the man on the case, Kevin Brockway, is going to be here in a moment. Really a surprise announcement about Kevin O'Sullivan, a guy who's been a fixture, been there as long as the Century Tower, now has announced he's stepping aside for a leave. The question is it temporary or is it permanent? May be interesting to dig into that some and find out what is going on exactly here. So many things going on like that. And again, back on the subject of the quarterback, I asked a question. Well, I asked this to Kevin. I get the sense that all was not right with the world regarding how the quarterback communication was going on. I've never have felt like that's been right, even with the situation up there with DJ and Billy. It just wasn't correct. And I think some of the moves might improve that. I don't know, get Kevin Brockway's opinion, followed by Alec Pete Wilbur, known now from the Ole Miss corner as the dumb blind. Yeah, it's pretty bad. They're going after her. She'll be joining us momentarily. France Berry will weigh in for what might be an inside report on the situation with Kevin O'Sullivan. And then our good friend from Ocala, Carlton Reese, the editor of the magazine, The Ocala, and editor of the book, which is coming out here in a few weeks. We're excited about it. It's called The Golden Season, written by France Beard, collaboration with several other people. It's going to be on the stand soon. You'll be able to get a copy soon. A lot of stuff to talk about tonight on the Buddy Martin Show. Thanks for joining us. And if you would, go and tell your friends and neighbors right now that you're on the air with me, and that we always love hearing from you, by the way. If you can join us, that would be great. Put your comments right here. Leave them here. Come back on this, talk about it right here. This is what we do on this show. It's what we kind of do right here. And we will like having you for the next hour or so. You'll get some informed opinions, maybe some breaking news. You never know. The way things are going now, anything could happen. So stay up with that. Coming up next, Buddy Martin Show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hey, I'm Buddy Martin. It's the Buddy Martin Show, and I asked the question, how much more change is going to take place at Florida? Football coaching staff undergoing more than a subtle change. That once I read it, and I'll talk to Kevin about this. There is some change involving the coaching staff and how the situation plays out with the play callers, etc. I like what I hear. And, of course, then we've got the news today. Big surprise that the baseball coach who's been there forever is now on leave. Kevin O'Sullivan announcing that he's on leave, and some people say, well, it's just temporary. I'm not so sure that's the case. We'll hear from France Beard later. He may have some insight on that, and also we'll be talking to our friend Carlton Reese. I've just chatted with Alec Pete Wilbur. She wants to come on a little early because of a commitment, and she will do that. And she'll join us, and she and Kevin, by the way, let me just say a word about Kevin. He is one of the most respected guys in the media in Gainesville covering the Gators. He puts his heart and soul into it. He works hard. He does good work. He's always there with the right story. And probably today in our world, we don't appreciate working journalists who are like that. And I just want to say, Kevin, I appreciate that and I respect you.
Well, no, I appreciate that, buddy. That's kind words to say. Some big changes. Obviously, the last couple of days with the offense, beginning with Ryan O'Hara calling the plays, and they said that I guess Russ Callaway is going to be up in the box there with them, and then of course Steve Sturtberger Jr. down on the field with the quarterbacks, and he's been working with the quarterbacks all along, as you know, buddy. But this is going to be a more active role with that. And Billy Gonzalez talked a lot about the green dot. He talked a lot about that, emphasized that. And as you mentioned, the quarterback communication, I think, is going to be different and could be for the better.
Yeah, for those who missed it, talk about the green dot and explain that, because that kind of went over people's head, I think.
Well, yeah, no, that's the new radio control, obviously, where you can get the radio signals into the helmet and the communication. And, it was interesting how Billy Gonzalez said that he wanted Ryan O'Hara to be the play caller because of his voice and because of the right voice inside the helmet that DJ's used to and comfortable with. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if it nets some positive results in the Georgia game. I think schematically too, you might see a few wrinkles and you might see him spread the field a little bit more. As obviously Billy Gonzalez is an Urban Meyer disciple. So that being said, you would think that there would be more maybe spread concepts and talking about getting playmakers in space a little bit more to make plays. And we know there's a lot of speed. There's a lot of talent on this team. So I think that that all adds up to at least an interesting wrinkle going to face Georgia.
Yeah, just to go over some of the comments, you wrote the story today after the SEC press conference in which Billy Gonzalez explained his situation. He said, Coach Spurrier has a wealth of knowledge. So he'll be on the ground, and in between series, he'll be the voice that gets to talk and gets to sit down with DJ and the quarterbacks and review the film. Ryan O'Hara, quarterback coach, will be in the booth calling the plays when the Gators take the field against Georgia. Titans coach Russ Callaway will be the offensive coordinator and the chief architect. So how does that work, And he says, they'll be sitting there, Gonzalez says, they'll have a chance to converse in between series. Russ Callaway will continue to oversee the offense as offensive coordinator, whatever that means. And he has all season, while Ryan O'Hara will call the plays to booth, allowing him to be the Coach Callaway. And so Gonzalez also indicates he supported staffer Steve Spurrier Jr. take an active role in the offense. It wasn't just like a passing thing. He's going to be directly involved. So Coach Spurrier will be more of an active role working the field with the quarterbacks and also be involved in game day management that allows us to move Coach O'Hara upstairs and then have somebody that's been communicating, been in the locker room on the video pad with it, DJ. Throughout the season, they've got their relationship when you start talking about communication. Well, the quarterback's all about, in my opinion, having that same voice. And that's from your story today in the Gainesville Sun. I want to raise this question as we bring Allie P. Wilbur in a little bit early today. She has a commitment she has to get to. And I wanted to talk about, here's the thing. Am I reading too much into this? Because I don't think they've been happy with the whole communication system with DJ and how Billy was communicating with him and the plays that were called. And just in general, it didn't seem like there was one voice and one person in charge. It felt to me like they needed to make a change. I don't know, but what I can see, and I'll ask bring Allie Peak in, good evening to the dumb blonde.
Hello.
I'll explain later.
I prefer to call her the smart blonde. That's me, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're calling her in Mississippi right now. Anyway, I'm just thinking, as I've thought this through, it felt like they knew there was a problem. They knew this had to be addressed, and I think they maybe think they fixed it. What do you think, Allie?
I mean, I think that there's 0% chance that Billy Gonzalez didn't know that there was a problem. But I also think Billy Gonzalez is a company man, and he absolutely respects the chain of command and, basically controlled what he could control, which was developing his wide receiver room. But yeah, 100% he knew that there was a problem. And I think the second he mentioned moving Ryan O'Hara up to the booth, it told me everything I needed to know. That's where the play caller should have been all along.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Kevin, I think he said something about being able to talk to the quarterback and look him in the eyes. That's the part about Rob Sale was such a hypocrisy. He was no more the offensive coordinator than you or I were.
Yeah.
And he made a call protections and all that kind of stuff. The fact is that the quarterback has to be in touch with the guys in charge. Billy was in charge. He wouldn't let his offensive coordinator be an OC. And so I think they made an attempt to fix that. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, no, quite possibly. And look, if you saw, I know it was more apparent on the TV broadcast to us live, but if you've seen DJ Lagway's body language on the sidelines the last few games, he's clearly frustrated at what's going on, and that could be part of it, communication. And I think to have someone down on the field, maybe to reassure him a little bit, to let him know that, you're going to navigate through this, you're going to get all right. Somebody with the experience of Steve Spurrier Jr., who has worked with wide receivers, quarterbacks, a former offensive coordinator at South Carolina, I think it'll be a great resource, and I think it'll help. And will it result in more points, and more yards? That remains to be seen. But this team right now is 13th in the SEC in offense, so you got to try something. You got to do something that's going to change this around, because certainly Kirby Smart and Georgia are going to be scheming up some pretty good things defensively. Although their defense has probably kind of slipped a little bit this year, but they've been more of a juggernaut offensively.
Yeah, epic fail on that regard. Let's see how it all works out. But and I like the fact that Gonzalez went right to work and trying to get the right forces and the right people. As an old high school quarterback, I didn't want to talk to my defensive coach when I was in the huddle or whatever. I want to talk to my head coach, and so what do you want me to do out there? He was somebody be in charge. And so that's one thing Spurrier did great. No one else could be Steve Spurrier. I don't think the head coach ought to try to call the plays anymore, but I do think there's this troika triumvirate. Hopefully they can figure it out. It feels like they're going the right direction. I mean, look, you think about Spurrier. I mean, he knows the mind of the man who was probably the greatest coach in Florida football history. He knows him well and coached with him, and learned his technique and knows how he likes to throw the ball in practice and he just knows about how to do it. And so take advantage of that. And I don't think they were. So that's a good thing. And
yeah. And let's not forget, too, he also worked under Mike Leach.
Yes, he did.
He was a pretty good offensive mind as well.
Yes, he did.
And he's the only one that was actually an OC that was allowed to call plays, right? So that out of any of these guys. So that's a valuable skill set.
Yeah. So I'm good with that. Let's talk about Kevin O'Sullivan. Surprise, shock. What do you think, Kevin?
The more I'm looking into it and then reading the press conference statement, and the fact that he was quoted in the press conference statement tells me it's not as big a deal as I initially feared. Now, listen, obviously we know about the blow up last year and the anger management issues. And at first, when you hear it, you're thinking like something else happened on the field. But no, this seems like a legitimate family matter involving someone within his family, not himself. And that, the indications are based on hearing he'll be back in the dugout in February. I think he still has one game suspension to serve, though, or maybe in one of the games. But
two, I believe.
Well, no, he's got two in the fall. They're counting the fall games.
Okay.
So it's a three-game one, so one will be. But I don't think this is something that's going to be serious, or this is the beginning of the end of Kevin O'Sullivan based on.
Yeah, see, it's not what I'm picking up. It's not what I'm picking up on. I have a feeling there's more to it. Allie, what do you think? What do you hear?
I have far less baseball contacts than I do football contacts, but I did hear that he would be back by the start of the season, and what I was told, which is not like not a source that I would put money on or anything, but was that the issue is with him, not with a family member, but that it is something that will be sorted out by the time the season started.
Could it be Scott Strickland?
I hope not. I don't know. I feel like that would
No.
be a whole other set of problems.
Yeah, I'm afraid we may find out that's probably what it is. We'll see. But what I'm going to guess, that's just what I'm telling you. People have told me. Again, I get told a lot of things. I don't say them all. So, all right. So the heart of the matter is today, and we're going to get full ride out of you, Allie, while you're here. We're going to pound you with this about the next coach of the Florida Gators, who you have deemed to be the coach at Ole Miss, which you have really ticked off a lot of people. And they're all calling you names. What some ugly names these Mississippi people are putting out there. I thought we were past that in this world. The name calling. I mean, Dumb Blonde was probably one of the nicer things.
It was. That was one of the nicer ones. There was some ones we definitely will not repeat on this family show.
Yeah, no.
And the funny thing is that I didn't even guarantee that Lane Kiffin was coming to Florida. What I said was, Florida wants Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin wants Florida. But either way, it's interesting to watch this Ole Miss fan base react to this. And guys, they were not built for this. It's been 48 hours and they're losing their minds. We have 2 months until we have a secure answer to this, unless he signs this contract extension. And, the crazy thing to me is I was told by a pretty reliable source that he's been given the contract extension from Ole Miss. Like, it's on his desk. It's a number he wants. It makes him paid more than Kirby's getting paid. And he hasn't signed it. And my thing is, if you don't immediately sign it, you're at least considering other options.
Well, here's some news. I did not know this. I don't know who wrote it. I wish I did hate it. But this person wrote that Ole Miss Athletics operated a deficit in fiscal 2024 with expenses exceeding revenue by approximately $7.7 million. The total operating revenue was $149.3 million, while the total operating expenses were $157. This deficit follows a roughly $8 million loss in 2023 and $5.2 million loss in 2022. While individual sports like football generate significant amount, other programs, particularly women's basketball, has substantial deficits that contribute to the overall annual loss. Now, look, say what you want to, it's still about the money.
Well, and to be fair to Ole Miss, most college athletic programs operate at a deficit. We are very fortunate to be at a program that does not. Not only is football a revenue generating sport, but basketball is a revenue generating sport. Most years, baseball is a revenue positive sport, which is almost unheard of. Gymnastics broke even multiple years in a row, which is also somewhat phenomenal. So we're in a really good position because of that. But why this becomes important is because in 2026, when revenue sharing becomes our way of handling NIL for athletes, your athletic programs need to be able to pay the $20+ million for your rosters across sports. And so, right now, these outside collectives are what is paying for them. So it becomes much more tricky. Ole Miss has also scrapped renovation plans for their stadium twice since 2021 due to, well, at least what the articles will tell you is due to lack of funding. So, I do think money matters, and UF has more of it.
Yeah, Urban Meyer made a comment today apologizing for his comment earlier to Mark Ingram about the money. And I'll tell you all about that as well. I want to tell you what our sponsor is, and I want to get this guy in here with me to spend 5 minutes on what he knows. He's got something going on. I don't know what exactly, but he knows something that we don't know. That'd be Franz Beard. Let's first tell you folks about our good friends, the sponsor of this program, has been doing such a great job, Meldon Law. And Jeffrey, I saw a video of him tonight out rallying money up to get money for the women's basketball program, which, by the way, we're going to be involved in at some point. And Jeffrey, of course, his law firm continued to flourish there in North Central Florida. Now has an office in South Florida. I think about in Boca, I believe. They've increased to 50 attorneys They're the only official law firm of the University of Florida. And they continue to spend their money with Gators. And so I'm always saying to you, if you're a Gator and if you want a good attorney, look at his track record, call up Meldon Law and find out why they're so successful. I just had a case settled, which I'm so thrilled about. Been going on for a while. Thanks to Meldon Law, they hooked me up with the right person, which they will do for you. If they don't have the right person for you in their firm, they'll go and find you the best attorney they can to get your problem addressed. So Meldon Law, they don't back down. Franz Beard's getting to be want to look like Panama Franz every day. Now he's got the glasses, he got the shirt, he got the hat, looking good. And Franz, were you kind of taken back by the announcement today that Sully was leaving?
Yeah, I was. But I've been told by somebody who is one of his better friends that he's not coming back, that it is a leave of absence and it's going to extend. And now that's from one of his close friends. Now it doesn't come from his mouth, nor does it come from the mouth of Scott Strickland, but it is from somebody who knows him and has known him closely since the day he arrived on this campus. And he says that Kevin O'Sullivan has coached his last game at the University of Florida.
Well, let's go back, guys. And Kevin, you can chip in on this too, and of course, Allie too. The incident that happened in the game last year, the final game, which was ugly. I guarantee it was handled terrible by the people in baseball from Carolina. And it was not right. Kevin, who'd seemed like he was on the edge for quite some time. Look, he's been through a rough go here the last couple of years. And things didn't go well like he wanted this year, and he was battling for his life, trying to keep his team going. They were razor thin, winning games at the end by just a hair of the chin. He got down to the end, and the officials allowed the home team to have a little extra time to get ready because they had a game. And he kind of blew his cork. And unfortunately, guys, as they say, no such thing as a unloaded gun or a dead mic. And the microphone picked up a whole bunch of F-bombs from Kevin O'Sullivan, which didn't look good and didn't sound good. And it really kind of set people off. He was forced by Scott Strickland to issue a public apology for this, which I'm sure he was just eating crow when he said that. And so it didn't set well with him. I'm not going to say that's the reason, friends, but I wonder if that's part of the issue.
I can double guarantee you that it is, and it may be the entire reason for all I know. He felt that Florida did not back him up, and he would be the first one to tell you that the F-bombs were over the top, that he could have expressed himself in a far more articulate manner and could have gotten his point across without the F-bombs. But heat of the moment, sometimes you blow your stack. I think every one of us has had a moment when we kind of lost it and we wish we could take it back. I'm not saying we all threw that kind of language out, but I think we've all had moments when, in retrospect, we wish we could have used something a little bit more peaceful and articulate and less confrontational, and still gotten our point across.
Yes. Let me put this to Kevin and to Allie about all the change going on right now. So much going on. Every turn, more changes. And it seems like things that happened in the past that festered up are now being brought back to the fore somewhat. At the center of all this is one person, Scott Strickland. Mm-hmm. He's had more than his fair share of it. There's fire Strickland signs everywhere, etc. He missed on his football coach again. He's got Todd Golden to hang on to forever. Lord knows if something happens to him, he's going to be history after that. But the question is, where does Scott Strickland stand at the middle of all this, Kevin?
Well, he got the contract extension, and the leadership above him is in flux. So still. And I mean, who knows how long Donald Landry is going to stay around. You've heard different things about that. Apparently, there's a clause in his contract where if he doesn't get elevated to full-time president, that he's going to get a substantial buyout. But that being said, you don't know for sure, how long he is going to be here. And I think, you look at the leadership above him and the fact that Scott, Kent Fox gave Scott this extension, and, he's here till 2030. And I think that, you got to look, I think, Buddy, you do have to balance it with some of the national championships that they have won here during his tenure. I believe it's 13, and his ability to find Todd Golden. And look, the football coaches haven't worked out, and football drives the engine here. I get it. And the stadium renovation project does not seem popular. But I would say that it probably is necessary. And he's expressed that because of ADA compliance. So I think he's in an interesting pickle here. He's got a lot of dilemmas, but he has managed certainly to, still try to lead the athletic program the best he can. And he's reiterated that this coach is going to be his call, certainly it's going to be a tremendously important one. These next 2 months are going to be tremendously important to get the right guy and to get the guy that can kind of galvanize the Gator fan base.
Yeah, Allie, do you think it's his call? I think it's a call of the boosters. Boosters, he'll be told what to. I don't think it's his call in total. It's not like you go get the guy. I think they're going to tell him what they want. What do you think, Allie?
I mean, I think they're definitely going to voice their opinions more than they probably ever have before. I also don't think you get to hire and fire 3 coaches, so it's incredible.
Oh, we lost her.
Yeah, we lost her. She'll be back. France, you go pick up that thought.
Here's the thing, that you can't keep losing your coaches, and he's lost. He's had 2 bad hires for football coach. He's had a bad hire for women's basketball, a couple of bad hires for soccer. Was it 1 or 2? I think it's 2. Yeah, as you said, Buddy, Todd Golden is the only one he can really hang his hat on right now. And I don't think that, he can say that he's the one that's going to be making this decision. I think he will get he'll be the public voice of the decision. But I think the Windermere Gator Mafia will make the decision along with a couple other folks.
Finish your thought, Allie.
Like I said, I don't think you get to hire and fire 3 coaches. So this is critical. I think our boosters will be more opinionated than they really have been in the past. I do think UF in general is pretty good about the boosters just being the background support. I don't know that that'll be the case this time. I just always think man, Jeremy Foley didn't have quite this much drama surrounding him with all of these different, I don't know, these different coaching things. The Sully stuff is really interesting. I guess maybe I'm hardened. I don't know. I really was not overly offended at all by what happened last baseball season. And I could see where your national championship coach is somewhat offended by your athletic director handing down a punishment that the SEC didn't hand down. Or the NCAA didn't hand down. I think that was kind of a little bit of a slap in the face to him. I think he'd already apologized when it happened. We'd moved on, and then it was months before they announced the suspension. So I don't know. That felt like very pointed, like Strickland was trying to prove a point to Sully more than anything else. And I don't know. It didn't sit well with me, but this hire is critical. I think this hire determines whether or not we get the donations we need for the stadium renovation. I think it determines whether or not we get the NIL money we need for retaining this roster. There's just so much that rides on this decision that UF has to get it right.
How critical is this, friends? Because Shane Matthews says it's the most critical hire in the history of Florida football. You and I think Ray Graves might have been bigger, more important. We lost France. France, we're having a good night tonight. Yeah, and I think it is a critical hire, no question about it, from the standpoint of the structure and what have you. Shane is like it's either, it's either Lane or nobody. Drinkwitz, I don't know. I've cooled on him a little bit because the fact that I kind of think like I don't know. I don't know if I want to go there again. If he gets more and more like a Group 5 coach, is he going to be another Billy? Those kinds of things. I think Francis is calling me here. No, so I don't know. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Your thoughts about what to do if it's not Allie, if it's not going to be Lane, what to do?
I think it gets difficult because I think Marcus Freeman has made it clear that he's staying at Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman and Lane Kiffin are probably 1A and 1B for most fans. I know it's somebody somewhat close to the situation today told me they felt like it was either going to be Lane Kiffin or Drink.
Crazy here. We're just trying to get fans back. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that Gator fans would not be as excited about Drinkwitz. I think
no doubt about it. I think it's night and day, don't you?
It is. I think it's night and day. That doesn't mean he couldn't win here, but I find it very difficult to believe he'd retain the roster in the same way that Lane Kiffin would, which makes it harder to win because then it becomes a rebuild if you can't retain the roster. I also think if you look at Missouri, and I don't want to take away from what he's done there because he has won, but if you look at what their schedule has been the last couple of years, we have joked on this program when we've talked about different SEC teams over the summer that like Missouri could trip into being 10-2. And so I do think that some of that has made what he's done there look even more impressive, but he's winning at Missouri. That is no small feat. I still don't know that he would be the right person for the job here though. But if it's not Lane and it's not Marcus Freeman, your options become far less sexy. And I think it becomes more of a gamble.
So you're a home run hire person. You think you got to have a home run, right, Allie?
I think they got to have a home run.
Kevin, home run? You think they have to have a home run?
I agree. I think it has to be Lane, and I've been told if he feels wanted, that he will come. But feeling wanted means that they're going to have to
open the wallet,
back up the Brinks truck a little bit. So I think that's going to be the key to it.
It's called make a Godfather offer. They got to go in there and make him an offer he can't refuse, and that's what it's got to be. It's got to be a Godfather offer, and I think if they do that, I don't think Ole Miss can compete. Ole Miss, I think, is straining to offer him the 11.2 that they're willing to offer.
Yeah.
So I think Florida's going to be $12.5 million.
I was told that he has a contract sitting on his desk from Ole Miss right now that is $94.5 million for 7 years, which makes him $13.5 million a year, just slightly over Kirby Smart. That is what I have been told is the Ole Miss offer, which is staggering money, which means UF is going to have to pay that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a bunch of money, as we know.
I think that. And listen, no state income tax here. Do they have state income tax in Mississippi?
Yes,
we do have state income tax.
But you might be talking in the neighborhood of 14 or 15 million. Because let's not forget too, the other issue too with Lane is the family is happy in Oxford. So I'm sure he could use that as some kind of leverage too, and the fact that hey, look, I'm going to be uprooting my family again and so forth. So if I come here, you're going to have to make it, worth my while and worth my family.
And I think he'll use that as a negotiating tactic, but he does also have a lot of family in Tampa still. So, they might use that to get more money, but I think in actuality, they would be close to family.
Yeah, Allie, the family too. I know them. You've had conversations with them. They have used it for leverage. Why else do you think they put it out there on ESPN? And that picture around the table, which is very powerful, looks like a happy family who's been through a lot. And the things Lane has said is all the right things, like Oxford, Lane, needs Oxford, Oxford needs Lane was very powerful. He looks like he's a happy, content man. But there's something about it, friends, when a guy gets a call to a place that he wants to go, and it gets his blood going. it's almost like a herd of horses taking him. He just can't help himself. He's got to take it. It may be that kind of offer for him, 90 million or 80 million because there's no taxes. Would be speak a world. And by the way, you can speak to this, Allie, about the family and who's in school and what they're doing. Knox is having a good run, but there's good football teams down here too. And there's also the matter of daughter. Talk about the family, where being in school in Alabama and so on.
Mm-hmm. So, he's graduating this, I understand it. So I know that they'll her, documentary about her when he about staying here, and
we can't hear you for some reason or the other. Your audio has gone bad.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now go try it again.
It said losing connection across the top, but then it went away. So
Okay.
I don't know.
But
anyway, so it is my understanding his daughter is graduating. Knox isn't old enough to be in school there yet. He's obviously a high school athlete. There's plenty of programs he can play for here and be successful. I just think there's two types of coaches. Everybody's competitive, right? But there are some that make it to whatever their destination is and they're happy with that. And then there are other coaches who like to fly a little close to the sun. And I think Dan Mullen was one of those. He could have stayed at Mississippi State for the rest of his career. There'd be a statue for him right now outside of it. He would never be fired, but he had that urge to see if he could he win at the highest absolute level? And he knew he couldn't do it at Mississippi State. And I also feel like there's that ceiling at Ole Miss. And that doesn't mean that he might not get lucky and win a championship there or make the playoffs or something. But I think the ability to do it consistently is much more likely at Florida than it is at Ole Miss. And so what we're going to find is, does Lane like flying close to the sun, or is he really his destination place? Is he a Kurt Ferenz who's happy being at Iowa for the rest of his life? And, lots of programs have come calling for Kurt Ferenz.
Or Johnny Vault.
Or are you somebody that wants to see, you're so competitive, I know with the right resources, I can have a powerhouse that consistently makes the playoffs and competes for championships. And if you look at the two programs, Florida is the place where you can do that.
Yeah,
buddy, it's interesting you brought up Johnny Vaught because I brought that up in my column. In that, what was that? The last year that Ole Miss won a national championship was 1962, and Florida has done it 3 times since. So I think in the modern era, the proof of concept is that for Lane is that it's certainly even in today's college landscape that's changed the last 15 years. I still think you're in a better position to win a national championship at Florida than you are.
Of course, friends will tell you back then it was about winning the SEC. National championship was never brought up, and Johnny Vault won what? 4 of them, 5 of them, friends? How many?
He won 6
of
of them.
them. That's right. So,
And you got to understand something. Ole Miss, this was single platoon football. There were enough football players in the state of Mississippi for Ole Miss to win the SEC in single platoon football. Ever since we went to 2 platoon football, there's not enough players in the state. And that's been the downfall. And it wasn't really until Lane came along that they started getting players from outside the state that were good football players. And he did it mostly in the portal because you're not going to get the high school kids to come to Oxford, which he could do at Florida.
Let me let Allie go. She's got an obligation she got to go to, and she was kind of to come on now anyway. And then I want to ask you 2 basketball heads a couple of questions about Will Richard. My goodness, what a debut. Allie, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys. See you later.
Talk to you later. The dumb blonde.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Smart blonde. Come on.
Yeah. No, we know that. That's not what we call it. That's the Mississippi guys who mad at her because she says he might go hit her, coach might go. All right, so guys, Will Richard, what a night. Steve Kerr talking about the guy. Looks like he played 7 years in the league, and he goes out and he lights it up the first time out. Are we surprised? I was surprised. I mean, my gosh, you're talking about basketball at the highest level. He just walks on and says he's one of them, friends.
Well, here's the thing about Will Richard is that his calling card is his defense, and that's going to keep him in the league a long time. And you got to remember something about Golden State. They took a chance on a guy named Draymond Green, who everybody said his offense wasn't good enough to play in the league, but they said his defense could, and his offense would come along. And that has certainly been the case. He's the mainstay of that situation there at Golden State. And so they brought in a guy that's a defensive stopper. They believe his offense will come along. And by the way, Walter Clayton Jr., 3 points in his first minute on the floor tonight.
Nice. Okay.
Walt can score.
Yes, he can.
Tom Crean told me that he thinks Will Richard's going to be in the league for 10 years. He told me that a few months ago. So he loves the kid. He saw that, and again, like you said, Franz, it's the defense, 3-and-D guy, and he's gonna stay in the league a while, I think.
Yeah. All right, so Franz, go right. I told you I'd keep you 5 minutes. I've kept you 20. So I'll let you go. Go right that piece, and I'll hold on to Kevin for a minute. We're going to talk a little more hoop. And also, Urban's apology. He apologized to Mark Ingram because I was wrong. Mark, you were right. I said money would prevent massive buyouts. In the last year, I've had conversations with people. I have talked to a couple of coaches that were fired. Here's the point. The fiscal responsibility of university administration at some point. I'm sure there's checks and balances. I don't know if there's a deep endowment that somehow they grab a hold of, but I was told verbatim there was no money in a particular school or schools. I asked in the summertime, and they said the days of monster facilities are over and the buyouts are over. I shared that with you guys, and I was wrong. Was Florida telling him that? I don't know. All right, Franz, I'll let you go. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Kevin, where do you think he was getting that from?
I don't know, but I mean, I refuted it when he said, I said, relax. I wrote a piece. I said, relax, Urban. Florida could buy out Billy if they had to, and they did. And, we asked Scott about it. And, certainly Scott said, hey, look, it's going to be a financial hit, but we can handle it. And I do think it's interesting, though, because, you have to look at how buyouts are structured, too, Buddy. And I do think that, in the case of Florida, obviously there's no mitigation. And, Billy's going to get $10 million, in about 3 or 4 weeks, 30 days. I mean, that $10 million is a bit of a nut, but then you have $3 million a year the following year. But I would think in the future that you would probably try to A, create a buyout with mitigation, and B, space it out so it's almost like a line item, and not give that nut up front. I think that's something that I think a lot of schools will be a little more strategic in terms of, because you could absorb that and it would just be kind of like Bobby Bonilla Day, right? Where you get $2 million a year for 20 years or something like that, and that would be your buyout, and then the coach would be set. And you could sell it that way to a coach that, certainly that you could, get that money for the rest of your life and into your retirement, as opposed to, getting it all in one big lump sum. So I think that's probably going to be the future of buyouts.
And good evening to Carlton Reese. I wanted to bring up, I feel a little bit sorry for Dan Mullenall. They was whining today, saying every time I asked for money, it was no, we can't do that. We can't do it. Well, Dan, it was a different time. It was a whole different time, and the money wasn't flowing like it is now. And yes, they did, after him, spent a bunch and spending money now. It's all about when the money's there, and when you have it. I mean, I've worked at newspapers. You have two, Kevin, you have two, Carlton, where times were good. You did a lot of traveling, a lot of spending, good. Then one day they took it all away, and next thing you know, well, they don't let you do those things anymore.
That lasted about 10 seconds for me.
Yeah, I think it's, and when it's right, it's right. All right, so let's take it even to Carlton. I was just talking basketball, and for a good reason, because Carlton's book is coming out here. He had a couple of, forgot to ask friends about it. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have a special signing or two in Gainesville, Ocala. The book is called The Golden Season. I know you did something like that, Kevin, at the end of your year, the Gainesville Sun articles. I'll let Carlton talk about the book. Although Franz wrote it and Franz and Carlton edited and what have you, it's pretty good. It's got some nice pictures in it from Chris Spears, and Franz did a good job of mapping and following the team step by step, didn't he?
Yeah, there's a nice little season in pictures from Chris Spears' work this year. And, but like you said, it's Franz's book. Franz produced all the copy. A lot of it is what he wrote during the year so we can kind of relive kind of those moments. And there's some fresh stuff in there too that he didn't write. So it mixes up. And then of course there's the great Buddy Martin's take on several things in there.
Not much.
A little bit of what
the
I
price
wrote.
of the book down. Well, it's nice collaboration. And Kevin, talk about your book when you were the Sun that you did at the end of the year. You did a compilation, didn't you?
Yeah. Through Gannett, we did something called Champions, which was a nice, retrospective of my stories and, Noah Ram's stories and the Gainesville Sun and some photographs. And then also we got Patrick Young to write the forward, which was really nice. And we finally got a copy of the book to him, I think, at SEC Media Days. My boss, Ainsley Lee, did. So that was good. And I am still waiting on my copies. Apparently there was a delivery snafu at our offices in Gainesville. So the next time I'll be sure to be there to pick them up personally, I guess.
There you go.
Book logistics are maddening, aren't they, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly. But that being said, very I've seen it, very pleased with it, and certainly it's an honor. And in 2007 we did one too, or 2006, excuse me, we did one too, and I can tell you that it's interesting because I think if you were in a state like Kentucky, they would probably sell a little better because I think college basketball has always been a hard sell in the state for a number of reasons. But that being said, I still think for Gator fans, it's still well read, and I would encourage all of Gator Nation to go out and buy both books. It's the Christmas season, holiday season. Pick them up and relive and rejoice in a championship season and drown your help you drown your sorrows from what's going on in the gridiron this season.
It's exactly what we're doing on this book, which is a hardback, and there are going to be some special deals. Carlton's going to, like one of these used car guys, I'll sell you two of these, not for $49.95, not for $48.95. No, we got some really good deals for people. If you buy the book in advance, prepay it, you get a big discount, which we'll get to you on later. We won't bore you with the details on that, but I want to say Carlton did a really nice job on this book and good putting it together, and France did too. So good team effort. And hey, we're not a basketball school, but can you guys guess how many Gators, you might know this already, were on the opening day rosters in the NBA? Can you have any idea?
9.
You're right.
Although they claimed Andrew Nemhard, which is interesting because
he did play a couple
he
of
didn't
years.
finish here, so I don't know. I'm not a fan of
whatever.
of
Yeah. All right, so make it 8.
Well, I've seen guys on NFL rosters that played their whole careers at Florida and was a graduate student somewhere else or something to that effect. Spent 1 year and then they're known as not Florida in the NFL. So I don't know how they determine all that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the names are being tossed around, obviously. Bradley Beal, now with the Clippers. How many can you guys name? I got them all right here.
Well, you got Trey Mann, right? Of course.
Yeah.
You've got Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Elijah Martin, Bradley Beal, right?
Yep.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yep.
So how many is that?
I don't know, but you didn't name Al Horford, did you?
Horford is still going strong, man. That's
Colin Castleton.
Colin made a roster.
Yeah. You mentioned Nemhard. I don't know if you mentioned Elijah Martin or not, but
no, I did. I mentioned Elijah.
Okay. So, and of course, we know Walter Clayton. France said that he'd already scored 3 points.
Al Horford is pretty amazing, and we'll tease here, buddy. I'm going to do the 25 best basketball players in the last week.
Okay.
I think some of those guys will be on that list.
Yeah. All right, let's switch it back over to football real quick. I've never been one for talking about or writing about officials because it seems like it's just one of those, like arguing balls and strikes. You know what I mean? You're going to get some bad calls and get some of your favorite. Kind of evens out. But there's a new thing now is the football officiating is really under fire in the SEC. You guys been following this?
Yeah.
I mean, now they even got to a point where they permanently suspended one. And we've seen what happened to Auburn. Poor Auburn. Guy's fighting for his life. He gets a rough deal down in his game against Georgia. And bottom line is now an SEC official has been permanently suspended from SEC games, and it's the guy's name is Ken Williamson. You probably heard of him. You've seen his picture, I'm sure, during the Auburn Georgia game. And 9 of the complaints were validated as official by conference schools. 9, okay? So that's pretty bad officiating. I don't know. I don't really get into the personalities. It seems to be more important in basketball than football to me. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Has there been a lot of bad calls in college football, and especially the SEC this year?
Yeah, I'd like to see the SEC do what the ACC does, where you could listen in to what the replay people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have heard how they were talking during that Auburn Georgia game. That was just absolute silliness to come up with that call. I'd like some transparency to hear this conversation. I mean, how they made those calls.
I can tell you that following some ACC football, though, that as bad as the SEC officiating is, the ACC officiating is worse.
Oh, we've seen firsthand that.
But that being said, yeah, no, it's been like I said, you know, I am of a belief like you, buddy, that it does kind of even out, and that over the course of the season, and that, you know, you're going to get a few breaks, you're not going to get a few breaks, and, you know, you got to keep playing. Or Jimmy Johnson had that great line in the 1980s with that Cleveland Gary fumble, as you remember, at the goal line against Notre Dame. And Jimmy said, see, the officials got it wrong, but this game shouldn't have been that close. I mean, you let the officials take it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my response is that, you know, maybe, you know, if you're a team, you know, obviously so many of these games right now, parity wise, are coming down to the wire. It does, you know, have definitely a critical effect.
For sure. Yeah. Basketball, I think, is even more critical, but nonetheless. All right. So let's wrap up this whole deal. I have a chance to talk to Carlton about the changes in the staff. We talked about it earlier, Kevin, going over the changes, how what Gonzalez is doing. Steve Spurrier Jr. is going to have a bigger role than St. Carlton. And if you've been reading about it.
Well, my kind of thought has always been, I don't like firing a coach mid-season, but if you think it's because I want to beat Georgia, I mean, it really comes down to that. I don't. Sometimes I think if you fire a coach mid-season, you're basically giving up on the rest of the games. You don't care about winning them. But in this case, if it means somebody else is going to call the plays, you jumble it around, and maybe Florida is better, has a better chance to beat Georgia, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm kind of excited to see those changes, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that's why they did it during the open week too, to give them a chance, to put them in the best position. And, you know, people are wondering, well, why did you do it after a win? And I think that was the ultimate reason.
It was a foregone conclusion.
And it was a foregone conclusion after the Texas A&M loss. It was your 4th loss, and you come back to Mississippi State, and the atmosphere is too toxic, and, you know, you're hearing the Fire Billy chants when they punt the ball back, and you know, you give Mekhi Barrow credit for saving the day and keeping Billy from being 2-5, and the team from being 2-5, which very easily could have happened in that game. But yeah, you knew then that the writing was on the wall, and that a change needed to be made. And now you give them that time to reorganize things and do, you know, experiment with some things like, you know, giving Steve Spurrier Jr. more of a role, which, you know, might pay some positive dividends here.
Well, 2 things that I thought about. Number one, I often wonder why they didn't utilize Spurrier. Here's a guy who knows everything about maybe the greatest coach in the history of Florida football, how he did it, knows his technique, coaches his quarterbacks the same way, has had some big-time exposure himself, you know, and you think you got him there, don't you think you got to utilize him? And now they're going to utilize him. He's going to have a say in the management of the quarterback position and in the play calling and the game planning, which I think is brilliant on the part of Billy Gonzalez. He could have been a hog, says, I'm calling the plays, I'm the coach, you know. I think I got to give Billy Gonzalez a lot of credit for that. The second thing is, it tells me, guys, they have not been happy with the conversation and dialogue between the coach and the quarterback all year long, maybe before that. Even I heard today, I talked to a friend of mine who talked to DJ Lagway, who said the word to describe him, he's extremely relieved. Relieved. I said relieved because he's fired. And this guy said, well, I think he's relieved because he didn't like the process. And we've all known there was some kind of disconnect there. So those two things right there, I think, guys, will be a big plus for this team as they go down the stretch and have to play these final 5 games.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if DJ Lagway gets better. I know the excuse is that he's been hurt a lot, and it's a valid one, but there's something else going on there. And if this relaxes him, if this makes him more confident, he's a better player, then yeah, great decision as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And let's see, like I said, formationally too, what they do, because I think if they do spread it out a little more, get some people in space, because I think that was the biggest knock on Billy Napier too. Everything was too bunched up, right? So I'm gonna be curious to see that aspect of it too, is how they line up, what they do. Do they try some 4 wides? Do they do some different things here? Do we is the days of the 2 tight ends over? You know what I mean? Like those are some of the things that I'm curious about, because certainly like I said, 13th out of 16th in the SEC, got to try something to jumpstart this offense.
It's odd that an interim is in and people are this excited. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a team where an interim came in and everyone just like gave up. Well, let's just ride this out. I think people are genuinely. I for one am excited to see how this changes that offense.
Well, I don't have any dreams about it, but just some things look basic. Again, if you got that knowledge there and you got it at your fingertips, although some coaches they're just so stubborn. I think it's going to be interesting to watch, as you point out. So, guys did a great job tonight, both of you. Thanks, Kevin, for staying the duration. What you got coming up that we should read, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to have a conversation with Steve Spurrier, and hopefully we'll, maybe ask a question about his son, and that could be coming up. Also, I did a special story about a friend of mine, my friend, a late fan from 4 years ago, who really touched my heart and was a big reason why I decided to return to Gainesville. Really good man and devoted fan. I mean, he did a little bit of everything. So, but mainly a basketball guy who I used to take on road trips. So be sure to check that out in the sun. And I'm going to be taking a little time off too before the rest of the bye week and getting ready for Georgia.
Enjoy the bye week. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kevin Brockway, Gainesville Sun and Gannett. All right, Carlton, get to work on that book. Get it available for people to pick up here soon. We'll have some drop locations where you can pick it up in Gainesville, Ocala. Estimate about 3 weeks from now?
Yeah, we're looking. I haven't got the date yet from the printer, but if anyone's interested in buying it or pre-ordering, send an email to thegoldenseasonbook@gmail.com. And just send any inquiry, ask any questions. I'll answer it.
Yeah, I got to be sure
Put you on the
to
list.
there. That's great, for sure, yeah. All right, Carlton, thank you for
Thank
all
you,
your
buddy.
stuff you've been writing. I appreciate it.
All right.
Carlton Reese, I want to thank our sponsors tonight, by the way. And earlier we had, we mentioned Meldon Law. Of course, they've been with us a long time. Appreciate what Jeffrey does at the university and the whole staff. And also now the good friends at Titan MRI, who have been with us a while. They now have changed things for you. Titan MRI Imaging now has 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue and now the Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers same great customer service. They accept insurance, or you can go through their convenient self-pay program. You get MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, ultrasounds, easy scheduling, which is terrific. You can make it at night if you can't go in the game. This is my favorite thing: the larger MRI machines. You can get in there and you won't have to have that panic attack because you get too fearful of things closing in. You Titan MRI Imaging. Check them out. It's coming to Ocala soon. It's your choice. Thanks to our guests tonight, all our people, certainly Allie Peak Wilbur and Kevin Brockway and Franz Beard and our good buddy Carlton Reese. And have a good night. Back tomorrow night to put a wrap on the week. Always appreciate you folks coming aboard. And we're going to say goodnight in just 1 second since we're able to get this. I'm just going to go ahead and say goodnight. Thank you.